people with the highest tolerance for risk usually do the best financially. My name's Brad Gosse, and I'm here today with Justin Popovic. And we're talking about risk, and we're talking about assessing risk, and we're talking about risk versus reward. And I'm going to let you lead, Justin, because you had an interesting thing to share with us about your tolerance for risk and how it's changed over the last few years. So go ahead.
Yeah. I guess basically Brad and I were chatting before we flipped the camera on, and we realized that risk is something that everybody has a different risk tolerance. And I was somebody who originally, early on in my life, was very, very conservative, didn't want to take any risks, financially or otherwise. And I kind of got pretty sick of living that lifestyle because it was pretty boring. I never did anything. And now I'm almost the extreme opposite, where I'm willing to take risks beyond things I'd ever even dreamed of before. And what I realized was the biggest difference was I now am able to assess a risk beyond that initial point of fear. What I mean by that is, let's say you have an idea, right? You want a common one now is, people are kind of sick and tired of their current job or their current setup at work, and they maybe want to get off and start something new or start a new career. But that initial fear kicks in, like, oh my God, what if things don't work out? Or, oh my God, what if I don't have enough money to pay the bills? So they immediately stop in their tracks, and the risk is discounted, and they don't even want to take any action. But what I'm suggesting is you got to take that initial fear many, many steps further, and you have to walk it right down to the path of the worst case scenario. And what this allows you to do is consciously, in your mind, kind of come to grips with, if things were to actually get as worse as they possibly could, if I take this risk, then can I actually live with that? And if you get to that state of mind where you say, yeah, I can live with even the worst case scenario, then you flip it over and go, okay, if I can live with that, what is the potential reward that I could actually receive if I take this risk? And usually, if it's a big enough risk, the reward is so huge that if you get really emotionally involved with that, then it probably will be worth your while to take that risk. Because if you do hit it, if you hit that amazing outcome that you want, your life could change, and it could change forever. And so that's something we kind of want to illustrate for people today, is learning to assess risk in your life, and maybe you'll actually start taking more risk and getting more reward.
Yeah, to use your notion of someone who's got a job and is thinking about quitting their job, a lot of the time they don't think past that first initial thought of, well, if I quit my job, I'm going to lose my secure income, and that's it, that's the line, that's the wall in their minds. But what they don't think about is they don't think about the facilities that might be in place. Maybe you've got an unemployment insurance plan, or maybe you've got some other financial nest egg or something that you can live off of while you're trying to develop your own business or do something. And what I've discovered is that when I take risks, I always assess the worst case scenario and the best case scenario. And sometimes, in some cases, we have to make bets in business that can be huge bets, and sometimes to get yourself to the next level, you have to leverage everything you've already done to get yourself to the next level. Maybe you've got to risk the equity in your home, or maybe you've got to risk, some of your business assets, or some of your cash reserves, or some of your whatever it might be to get yourself to that next level. And a lot of the time I'll sit there and I'll say, okay, I'll do the math and I'll say, well, absolute worst case scenario in this particular risk, maybe I'm going to lose it all. Maybe I'm risking everything I have, and the worst case scenario is bankruptcy, right? And I've made decisions like that over the last 12 years where, like, okay, I'm betting the farm on this business idea, and if it doesn't work, I'm going to go broke. And in every case, in every single case, I have never hit the worst case scenario, the worst case scenario being bankruptcy. I've never gone there. I've lost money along the way, and I've made a lot of money along the way, and I've had some ups and downs financially, but when I assess risk and reward, one of the things I look at now is the middle ground, which not a lot of people look at, because most of the time I fall in the middle somewhere. My best case scenarios are going to make a fortune, and best case scenarios don't always pan out, neither do worst. So if you get to 60% of your best case scenario, you're still way further ahead than you were at your job, which is already a worst case scenario.
Plus, it's non-quantifiable, but the value that you got from the learning. Just of taking that risk, now you have that experience that just goes into your experience toolbox, and now future risks, you're probably that much more confident because you've got these other experiences to bank upon. So I think in general, if you start learning how to assess that risk at the beginning and taking it right to the end of worst case scenario, getting comfortable with that, take it to best case scenario, probably end up somewhere along the middle like Brad said, have a look at it, and you'd probably look sitting on some risks right now that you may be willing to take if you go through this process.